Welcome to the JD Bunkis podcast. Ben Ennis is here. We just couldn't stop talking about Gary Bettman calling Joe Thornton Dumbo.
It's tough moment for Gary, who, listen, reading off a teleprompter, there is an art to it.
Sure.
Done it. Mastered it.
Wow, yeah, you mastered it.
Mastered it. Like, I know how to do it.
They still talk about you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Buddy.
Yeah.
If there's a thing that I can do in this business, honestly, might be,
Read sports.
just reading words. Might be, like, listen, talking
Which is
extemporaneously
surprising
about
because
sports.
You don't read books, so
That's
where
a
do you get
lie.
the practice?
I read
you
them.
read one book a year, and
It takes forever.
Yeah, exactly.
I go to the cottage and I devour one book. But
one
and
whole
then
book
the
a year.
rest of the year is spent trying to finish one book.
Trying to figure out what the
Sapiens,
next
I'm
book will be.
almost
Great book.
3/4 of the way through that one. But no, I can read.
Which you started in June.
It was definitely in the summer.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah, sure.
There's a lot going on. But yeah, no, I can read.
Yeah.
And I can read a teleprompter. It's hard, though, to look like engaged and read, but also understand what you're reading and not talk about San Diego in disparaging terms.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you're not used to doing it, and
Sure.
Gary's getting a little long in
No.
the tooth. That was a tough one, though, for Joe Thornton. He seemed unfazed. He's not fazed by anything, though.
Okay, I will say this, though. I actually did think he looked a little phased. And
Who, Dumbo?
yeah, because that reminded me of a high school nickname where just something stupid happens and you think, surely that won't stick. And then it's like I have a buddy whose nickname is the Rat King.
Yeah.
It's my favorite nickname of all time. And everybody calls him
RK.
Yeah, RK. Yeah, you've
I
met
know.
him.
I
So, but he got that nickname in like grade 10 of high school because some older kid said, "You look like a rat king," because he was eating a certain way.
Yeah.
And it followed him through the rest of his life. And I thought the same thing with the Dumbo thing
You're
where
so right.
he was sitting there and he went, "And Dumbo," and all the hockey guys in the room were like, "How did we not? How did this never occur to us to just do Dumbo?" So
Yeah, I knew a guy who he was cheese wagon because once waiting for the bus, he said, "Oh, it's like cheese. It looks like cheese." Like, you're cheese wagon.
Yeah.
Rest of your life. Cheese
the rest
wagon.
of his life.
Dumbo. I think Jumbo is so well established. Can you get a new nickname?
No, and
at
he's
this
so
point in your
respected.
life?
But the thing is, though, is that
Amongst friends, he's
yeah,
Dumbo.
every once in a while over a beer, someone's gonna be like, "Hey, Dumbo, go get me another," and he's gonna look at them and go, "Ha ha ha!" But it'll get a pop. And once it gets a pop, here's the actual truth. This is real life advice. If somebody calls you, like if you're a younger person on the show and you've still got a life ahead of you, even if you're a little older and there's a shot.
There's a shot to have a life.
No, there's a shot to have a new nickname. If you react poorly to the nickname,
That's it.
if you put up a fight, you're dead.
Yep.
It's your nickname forever. The second you do and for ORK, that happened at university where one night at a party, he was like, "I'm not RK." And we were like,
Oh, buddy.
you're the most RK now. You're cemented. It's done. We put the statue up. It's there for the whole town to see. If you just laugh it off and you're like, "That's a good one," then I don't think it has the same sticking power.
And I do think Dumbo
Dumbo. It's just so good. It's so good.
Listen, I can't call him Dumbo. But yeah, I do think Jumbo.
No, we can't.
Jumbo did try to laugh it off
Sure.
because what else are you going to
that's
do?
his.
And Gary didn't just like.
I'm just
gloss
saying,
over
I
it. He
saw
said,
his face.
Jumbo,
Right? Yeah,
not
he's
Dumbo.
Yeah, obviously not Dumbo. We're not. You should have been like, "We're not all thinking it." Okay,
Yeah.
I got tons of stuff for you today,
Oh.
but I need
Oh.
to start with this. I need to start with a gripe.
Okay.
So, I went out to watch Monday Night Football last night, and I was trying to figure out which sports bar that I was going to go to. And I get this question all the time. And this is not, I shouldn't even do this segment with you because you don't really come into the city. You're a pretty classic burbs guy, which is come out to the suburbs, come out to my basement. And you go, yeah, there's lots of things to do in the city. Why are you paying such a ridiculous price for a home? It's because it's attached to the city with all the things. I get this in my DMs all the time. Hey, JD, where should I go to watch this game? Hey, JD, tell me the good sports bar in the city. And we really don't have a lot of good sports bars. It's just the way it is. I'm not throwing shade. There's some decent, like solid establishments. But yesterday was an absolute disaster class by the place that I went to. First of all, I show up. They've got Hockey Hall of Fame on all of the TVs. So every single one. I'm like, this is a sports bar. There's Monday Night Football.
The sound up?
No sound.
Yeah.
There was a couple TVs on the National Women's Soccer League game being played in the snow.
Okay.
And there was a ton of TVs on Hockey Hall of Fame. So it's getting close. And I'm just starting to be like, now I got to be the guy.
Yeah.
Which you never want to be the guy who at a sports bar is going up to the server and being like, hey, can you switch the TVs over?
Yeah, Hockey Hall of Fame induction ceremony, not necessarily a thing that you watch without the sound.
And this place is, again, I don't want to name it. I don't want to.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
Well, and it's also, it's a good place. But it's got a million TVs. And it's clearly just, it's supposed to be a sports bar. It's got, like, it's sports, okay? This isn't, well, it's kind of a sports bar. It's like, no. It's a sports bar. I go up, I'm like, hey, this Monday Night Football, it's on. I've even got I know what channels they're on.
Yeah, well, that one's not hard.
Right. Well, it's on, literally, it's on ABC, CTV, like multiple channels.
Yeah.
So I'm going, all right, can you fire this up? Trust me, like, this is not it. They're like, yep, for sure. So now the game is like starting. It's 8:15 and I still don't have it. And I have to be the guy again. And then they're like sending another guy over and he's like, what do you want? And I'm going like,
oh my God.
It's the Monday Night Football. It's literally.
There's no Leafs. There's no Raptors.
This is the thing. This is the thing that has to be on, okay? Like, just put this on. And there's multiple people at this bar, by the way, wearing like Eagles jerseys. And they're sitting there waiting for the football.
They were just going to sit there. If you didn't speak up, they're like, I guess
no, I'm sure they
watching Dumbo without the sound.
I'm sure they would have gotten there, but it became kind of clear because there was murmuring amongst the patrons that, hey, something's got to be done here. And they're doing the classic thing where they've got the big remote on the wall and they're pressing all the buttons. And then you got one guy coming up and then they keep like switching off the channels. They don't have sound, which to me in a sports bar, like it's a hybrid, but it's a sports bar, man. Like it's a sports bar. So like, I want to say where it is so bad because I want them to correct their behavior, but there's no sound. And the guy's just like, good, like, give me a thumbs up. I'm like, there's 18 people working here. There's got to, all I'm saying is sports bar owners. Like, you own a sports bar, and if you care, first of all, they always say, like, the dumbest thing you can do is open a bar or a restaurant, right? Like, all of them fail.
Yep. Yeah, buy a boat or own a bar or restaurant.
We don't have enough good sports bars in the city. Like, we have places where you can go watch the game all over the place, but actual high caliber sports bars, there's only a few. Like there's really only a little tiny handful where I tell people like, you should check this spot out. This is high caliber. The first training that should happen at a sports bar is not, do you have your smart serve?
Yeah.
It's like, what's on TV tonight?
Yeah. What
games are on TV tonight? And that person being like, oh, well, the Leafs play the Red Wings at 7:30. The Raptors play tomorrow night against the Cleveland Cavaliers. There's Monday Night Football. It's Eagles, Packers. And then train them on the televisions. It just doesn't, I don't get it how often this happens for me when I go out to watch a game somewhere and they have no idea how to operate the television, no idea where the channels are. And then they keep like switching them. I'm going from, no joke, it's going no signal on all these things. And then it's like flipping over to a random, I'm aware that the Miami Heat won in overtime last night. Because
what a day in the NBA.
Sure, but I'm just saying, like, I'm just trying to watch the one thing on television and they keep flashing it over to National Women's Soccer League postgame and the Miami Heat all of a sudden, like randomly throughout the game. It drives me nuts. Please, for the love of God, just get people to learn the remote if they're going to work at a sports bar.
Luckily, you missed no scoring because of the first time.
I saw most of the game.
Yeah. 0-9, the scoreless first half of Monday Night Football. But yeah, I think beyond like the training, it should be a prerequisite for being hired at a sports bar.
This place
right?
had 0 sports fans working at the sports bar.
That is bizarre. And I understand sometimes
both the guys had 0 idea, and the girls coming over, like there was no shot from anybody.
Sometimes you do get I'll just speak for myself. You get stuck in this thinking that more people are into sports than you realize because we're so immersed in it. And
Yeah.
everybody we talk to it or place a business, that's what they've chosen to do. And you remember, oh yeah, you take like a larger picture of the world at large. It's not a big swath, but those people, when they go out, they like to go to the bar with the sports on it. So you would think there would be an acknowledgement if you're opening an establishment of that nature that the whole reason you are a sports bar is to attract those people.
That's the part that I think is lost in this, is like sports bars will open up and then they'll just fill the bar full of people who don't care about sports. And so there's actually, you lose, it doesn't matter what your screens are.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you've got good priced beer. You don't have people who know how to operate the televisions and who need to make sure, like, hey, let's make sure that we've got this feed here, that we've got these games here.
Yeah.
It should just be planned out. And this happens to me every year, specifically at March Madness, because I want to go out and watch a bunch of the games with friends and have multiple screens, and you get to have a little bit of cheeky day drinking with your buddies who also take off work and care about gambling and watching basketball all day. And it is just, it's a war. You got to go in there basically like you're Jon Snow with the sword, you're standing out there in the field against all the servers who are basically like, is that it? Is that good? And then you just end up being like, sure, leave it on the game that's a 40-point blowout. Just leave it there. Who cares?
And I do have a little bit of sympathy sometimes when it's a more specific ask, and these sports bars do mostly have
this
all
is
the
Monday night football on Monday.
You should know in this country there's a couple of places, and it was on one of the two.
Yeah.
So yeah, you should probably be able to figure that one out.
There's it on your cable package now. It's like they're all about sports.
Yeah.
That's all. That's why people have them.
Right.
Learn the few channels that have sports, for the love of God. I get it. Amazon's got stuff. You got to be able to do this. It's trickier than ever, right?
Yeah.
But this
yesterday.
This has to be the way forward. If we want our bars to survive, we need to make an atmosphere that is actually conducive to sports fans going out to the sports bars when it's not an obvious high event moment like the Blue Jays are in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're going to line that up and get it right. It's the other stuff. You got to have it covered. I want to be able to go to a bar when there's a good Raptors regular season game and the game's already on the TV and there's sound on. And it's way too infrequent. Like I said, there's only 3 places that I know I can go to where I feel like, okay, this is a no doubt about it lock guarantee that this is going to be set up, they're going to have it right, and they're going to have the games on with sound. That's too few for a city this size.
Okay, so, I mean, did we identify a market inefficiency here? I know we just said it's a bad investment idea, but like, should we be fronting?
Remember, I already had what I think is my greatest idea, which is charity bar.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, where
it's a little seedy though. It's like
it's a little seedy, but the premise of my idea is like you go to a sports bar, but you also attract everybody who wants to feel like we live in the Instagram culture where people post and they go, "I've done it. I've done it. I've solved the problems." People want to feel good. And so you open up a sports bar where a small set of the proceeds for everything goes to charities. And like you get a little drop down menu where you're like, who do you want to donate to tonight? And it's like, a little
that's good.
Siphons off and goes to charity.
Yeah. I think we'd have a better chance with a sports bar that actually focused on sports if that was the thing.
But it's both.
Okay. So it's both.
Yeah. It's a grade A+ sports bar.
Love it.
But also when you go there, charitable donations get made.
Can I make a direct appeal to someone with money? Because we don't have any. Like, hey, if you
we
have,
don't have any
money, we can like be the faces of this thing.
Don't just steal the idea and do it yourself.
No.
Obviously, you involve us. Patent pending. We got a patent. Copyright. Whatever you got to do. This is my idea. Property of the JD Bunkis Show. Anyway, we're done with this topic. Next thing. Baseball free agency. Okay? I actually think, and I'm sure you feel this on your show right now, Leafs stink. It's a slog. The Raptors' biggest story of the season so far is Brandon Ingram throwing a water bottle at a worker and not apologizing.
Scotty Barnes got some of that on.
Yeah. We're officially, like, Argos lost their head coach. They're probably going to get Mike O'Shea. I'm down with that. Baseball free agency is the number one thing.
Yeah.
Like, it still is. People want to know what this baseball team's going to do, who they're going to bring back, what the Bo situation is. they're kind of getting lumped in with a whole swath of free agents. But I want to start with this because we're going to do a Are We Getting Scammed segment.
Mhm.
I've realized something about myself that I needed to open up to you about, which is I know it's dumb. I know that it might end up, if it was to go the way that I want it to go, it has a greater shot of causing me baseball pain. But it has now gotten to the point for me where when I read these rumors, I'm rooting for the New York Yankees to sign players over the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
100%.
you're there too.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah.
buddy, I did a whole
Oh,
thing.
I felt like such a fool confessing this to you. I feel so
No,
comforted knowing that.
and the Yankees are good, and they won 94 games.
Sure.
Man, they pushed the Blue Jays all the way to 4 games. You remember that?
Yeah, but it's like if Kyle Tucker was going to go to the Yankees or the Dodgers.
Oh, yeah. Way prefer the Yankees.
Yeah. What, isn't that wild?
Yeah. It's crazy because the Blue Jays will play the Dodgers 3 times a year now with the new schedule. And actually, those 3 games come at Rogers Center in April next year. I don't know if you've looked at the schedule, but yeah, it's weird. They play the Dodgers in April at Rogers
Can't
Center.
wait to go and just be fully traumatized.
Yeah.
Can't wait to sit there and bite through all my fingernails and feel bad about myself in my World Series shirt.
It's one series, and it was so close. And, yeah, benches cleared, but ultimately, like, not a ton of animosity, but they feel like the Blue Jays' biggest rival. And, sure, some distance will smooth that over, but Ben Nicholson-Smith, in one of his more recent columns at the end of it, talked about the potential of trading of Brandon Lau and Max Muncy after he opted in with the Dodgers. And I did some soul searching because Max Muncy's a good player, like very good player. And he could fit a need, but he's beyond that. He's just a very good player. He takes a walk, hits a home run.
I think that he actually leads, and all the MLB postseason stats are so weird now because they've expanded the wild card to a certain point and added these games. But I do think that he is the MLB postseason walks leader.
Yeah, no, he takes a walk and he can hit a home run, and he could play a position of need at third base. But there's like some ickiness about a Dodger on the Blue Jays.
I would not want it.
Yeah, I said the same thing.
Pass.
Because now the Blue Jays, unless there's some massive drop-off coming, which I can't imagine there is.
Oh, could you imagine every time Max Muncy comes up to the plate?
Gross.
Remember? You're like, no.
Ugh, you don't need Max Muncy. You can do it with someone else.
No.
Okay? Yeah, no, the Dodgers are,
it's
maybe
like
not their biggest rival, but for a team that hopes to get back to a World Series, and we know the Dodgers are going to be there, that's the team that you're judging yourself against now.
Yeah.
You pushed them as far as anybody has in the last 2 years.
I just think that they have reached the true evil empire status that Yankees fans thought they were for the longest time.
And they used to be in the 90s.
Yes, they used to be.
Won 3 straight World Series and almost came within a Game 7 of winning a 4th straight. And I think the opposition in those 3 consecutive World Series won 1 game off the Yankees.
Dude, they were a true dynasty. Now they're just another team.
Yep.
They're okay, cool. You got history. Awesome. It means nothing to most people. You lost out on the Soto sweepstakes to the Mets.
Yeah.
After you made a World Series.
Yep.
Ain't nobody afraid of you in that way anymore. It's just not the same. Do I respect that they can splash money around? Are they the team in the American League that I think most Blue Jays fans would agree you want to beat the most? Like, there's a different level of animosity towards the Yankees than there is even the Red Sox.
Yeah.
It's I don't even think comparable.
No.
Maybe it's because Boston had the tortured franchise thing with the Red Sox. So for people our age, we still kind of view them a little in that light versus the Yankees. I don't know. But for whatever reason, the Boston stuff has not translated to baseball the way that it does in hockey, where everybody hates the Bruins. The Dodgers have now tipped the scales to the point where I don't want to say it's unfair. They have this saying now, I read in Rosenthal's piece, where they say their motto is, let's be pigs.
Yeah.
As in, let's get greedy at the trough for wins. Let's do whatever we can. Let's keep the spending going. I don't want salary caps. I hate salary caps. I look at football this weekend, and it's like the Bills lose to the Dolphins. They can't make a good team. Yeah. You know, the Chiefs are 5-4. Yeah. The Ravens are struggling to get by J.J. McCarthy. The Steelers stink again. They're horrible again. There's no good teams. Hockey, you look at the standings, everybody has 17 points. Like everybody's just like right there in the mushy middle. The biggest case for the Leafs is like, they stink.
Yeah, they're one of the many stinking teams.
Yeah, they're one of the they're just part of the stink pile.
Yeah.
Everybody stinks, right? you can just be like halfway decent and all of a sudden you're a breakaway team like the Anaheim Ducks are, who, by the way, are the number one. It's not League Pass, it's center ice in hockey, but they're the number one center ice team that you should actually be watching. The NBA is the exact same thing. Like, you'll see these betting lines now where a team will be minus 600, and unless it's Oklahoma City, you go, that's nuts. Don't bet that. That's not a guarantee. There's a few like horrible teams in the NBA, but that's more of what the situation is rather than there's just a huge meaty middle of mediocrity that is not all that enjoyable. I know that everybody wants to feel like most sports fans want to feel like their team has a shot and that it economically is good for the sports, good for the owners, but I'm very adamantly anti-salary cap in baseball. But the Dodgers have done it to the point now where you're like, well, this feels too much, especially considering like they're able to pilfer from Japan in a way that no other team can because of their proximity and the spending. They've done these deferred contracts that have worked out for them where it doesn't even feel like they're bearing the brunt of these costs
now the
and the
next
immediacy.
owner will when they sell the team.
No doubt. But the idea that they would go out in free agency now and say, hey, you know how we just had the best starting pitching staff in postseason history up until the World Series? We're going to try to maybe be in the Imanaga sweepstakes, or we might add Framber Valdez. Oh, I don't think they'll get him because of the Astro stuff, but like they're still the front runners on every major free agent. The feeling like you win, but then you're also potentially going to add even more to a winning team. It's hard not to make you feel a little gross about it. And I don't begrudge them.
No.
I wish I was a Dodgers fan. I wish I was just like in my mentions learning about baseball 2 years ago and talking about how great we are. But like, yeah, I hate the Dodgers the most. I officially would like to announce that the Dodgers are my most hated team in baseball, and they actually make the Yankees look like my best friend.
Yeah, and I want to thank them for that, frankly. Like
they make you feel something.
Yeah.
It's like, watching a horror movie where you get scared and you go, but you felt something.
And they're not unbeatable. As the Blue Jays clearly showed, right? As the Yankees almost showed 2 years ago. Like, if they win Game 5, send it back to L.A., all the pressure on the Dodgers
that
team,
one was less.
Whatever.
I'm with you.
Okay, and they walk off Game 1. It was closer than maybe 5 games indicated. But, yeah, clearly the Yankees are flawed. They're not unbeatable, though. They won 93 games during the regular season. I know so much of that was, hey, we're not bringing anybody back unless they're 150% ready to go. And the pitching staff looked a whole lot different in the postseason than it did during the regular season. No, I'm glad that they exist, but they are hateable. And it doesn't matter if you play in the NL West or in the National League or the American League or the American League East. Yeah, they're the target. But now that you have firsthand experience with it and how close you were through the power of friendship, not through the power of capitalism, even though it was also the power of capitalism, but more the power of friendship. Yeah, they are absolutely the target now, more than the Yankees. And yeah, you got to get through the Yankees if you want to meet them again, probably. And yeah, you have 13 games in the division. And yeah, to secure your spot as one of the bye teams, you're going to have a better record than the Yankees. That's like the immediacy. But no, this firsthand 7-game experience has absolutely shifted my mentality. It sounds like your mentality. I think a lot of the mentality of the fan base.
The problem that I come to, though, is I wish that players had the mindset of if you go and win with the Dodgers, it's a Kevin Durant championship now.
Yeah.
Like, if you're Kyle Tucker and you go to the Dodgers, I'm not respecting that you won. They won without you twice in a row, and they're the team that spends the most money in all of baseball.
He has won. He won in 20.
Yeah, but I'm just saying anybody that goes there, to me anyway, it feels like the KD chip where it doesn't have the same weight to it anymore. And they might, as an organization, that doesn't change because if you can rip off 3 straight or 4 straight, whatever, you get put into a dynasty. And baseball's always been this way. No salary cap. You can buy championships. As a team, you do it. But from an individual standpoint, I do wish that players looked at it more as not just, hey, where are we going to live? Hey, how much money am I going to make? But that there's some kind of hair splitting of, man, if I go, I watched
legacy stakes.
Well, I watched Blake Snell and Tyler Glasnow celebrate the way they did, where they did the whole, if you can't beat them, join them. And I go, do your thing. I don't care. You can rub it in people's faces. That's what you get to do if you're the champion. That's sports. Like one of the most fun parts of this is when you're playing your friend in fantasy football
Yeah.
and you beat them and then you get to talk trash for a week.
Oh, don't you
It's-
think it's going to be enjoyable to have it over Yankees fans? The
Yes.
first series that those two teams play during
Correct.
the regular
How fun
season?
was it doing the Yankees lose over and over and over again?
Yeah.
Like you heard that around the stadium. So I don't begrudge the Dodgers fans or the Dodgers for celebrating. I just look at Blake Snell and Tyler Glasnow when they're doing the whole like can't beat him, join him thing and go, cool.
Yeah.
Like
And maybe this
you
is
guys are whatever. I'm not going to remember you from this World Series run.
Well,
You're
that's
on the
it.
team. Good for you.
That's it. I mean, and maybe it's naive to think that, in 20 years when they're celebrating the anniversary of these championships and you're not even a bit player, like Kyle Tucker would not be a bit player on this team, but he definitely
Yeah,
is
but you're a bit
behind.
player compared to Shohei
Right.
and Yamamoto.
Compared to
and
Krusty.
compared to Krusty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Mookie Betts. It's like, how many MVPs do you have?
Yeah.
Oh, none. Right. All those guys have multiple.
Mhm.
And yeah, Yamamoto just won 3 games in the World Series. It's like, you can be a part of it, but you're going to have to wait in line.
Mhm.
Whereas you're part of, already this 2025 Blue Jays team has now been immortalized and they come back after their playing days are over. And hopefully for them, it's with a ring
will
on
be.
their finger as well. It's a different deal. I mean, look at the way the 2015 and 2016 Blue Jays are feted in this city, having made it just to Game 6 of an American League Championship Series. This team got within less than a foot of winning a World Series against the evil empire.
They'll be celebrated, but it's funny that if you're looking, I've thought this before. The 2015 and 2016 Blue Jays, in a way, they benefit from being further away in terms of people looking back on it because it's not as heartbreaking.
I think we're still too close, but
Yeah, maybe.
you'll see.
Yeah. I'm not saying those guys won't be celebrated. Like, again,
Yeah.
I tweeted something about this, but someday you're going to be an old man and you're going to be like, Ernie Clement back in my day. It's
Yeah.
just, you're going to have.
I think there's there's one guy for sure who doesn't get to benefit, and he wasn't really a part of it anyways. Like Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, it'll be tough. Like,
yeah, no one's going to be like, he's in town, autograph signing,
that one's tough.
crickets.
Yeah, that one's
Yeah.
tough.
I thought we took out some ads. I was going to be here. Oh, they must have not gone through.
Yeah. Yeah. And we don't, God, let's not relitigate it.
No.
But yeah, I think he might not benefit. Although, like,
I will say with conclusivity, he will not.
if there's a championship won in 2026.
No. If the Jays got to the World Series in 10 years from now, like it was the same gap between 2016 and 2026.
Yeah.
And we were doing the shows, right? And one of the producers goes, we're trying to think about guys from the 2026 team. And you go, yeah, okay. See if Scherzer's available. See if Baz is available. And then they're like, we got a line on IKF. I would go, leave it.
Yeah.
We're good.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's just fine. But yeah, to your point, if you're Kyle Tucker and
Yeah.
you're not going to supersede Vlad here,
Yeah.
It's Vlad's team, and he's certainly shown his bona fides in the postseason. So you won't be the top guy, but I mean, yeah, Ernie Clement is absolutely one of the main characters. I mean, it's maybe a bad comparison because he set the postseason record with 30 hits. But yeah, if you're Kyle Tucker and you sign on the dotted line and you choose the Blue Jays over the Dodgers,
You're a good guy.
you're a great guy.
Yeah.
You believe in the power of
Yeah,
friendship.
exactly. You believe in more than just greed.
Yeah. Even though the Blue Jays will once again have a top 5 payroll in
Yeah,
baseball, but
yeah,
not the
whatever.
highest.
Yeah, the Dodgers, it's let's be pigs. The Blue Jays, it's let's be friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, you'll be celebrated in a different way, and it will play into your legacy. If you're interested in that, if you just want to be one of the guys,
Yeah.
like just on the line of fellas who were there,
Yeah.
go ahead, do that.
Congrats for being there.
Yeah.
Right on. The accomplishment is that you were good enough that the Dodgers signed you.
Yeah.
That's the accomplishment. Then from there forward, who cares?
Yeah.
Like you did it, you made the Dodgers. It's like you made the A team. You made
Yeah.
the top tier team in your region. Okay, I want to subscribe to this podcast. Leave 5 stars. Reach out anytime at JD Bunkus on Twitter and Instagram. I try to read as many messages as I possibly can. I want to take a quick break, and I want to talk about Scam Watch on free agency and level setting expectations. All right. Good hour continues with Ben Ennis. So, I don't need to hear the headphones in here in the studio. There are a lot of scammers. You get calls like, hey, you need air ducts. You need the ducts cleaned.
Are
You
the-
don't think
the-
it's
no,
scam?
I think there is such a thing as duct cleaning.
Yeah.
I don't think it's nearly as important as the people calling you would
Yeah.
make it out to be.
Yeah.
That's a different deal than the people pretending to be the CRA or
Yeah.
the 407
Yeah.
people are the ones that
Yeah.
are now the new hot
Yeah, that's a hot
scammers
one.
du jour.
Yeah, we got you.
It's like, yeah. And then
didn't pay.
because you're like, I've driven on the 407 before.
Must be true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of the perfect country to do it to because nobody here wants to get in trouble.
No.
Being Canadian's like, oh, sorry, we didn't want to bother you not paying for the highway, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, I'll pay. So this doesn't, if you're our age, I don't think you're getting scammed by this very often, right? Like you see an unknown number in your phone.
Yeah.
And you go, yeah, I'm not picking that up. And someone calls and says like or sends a message is like, I'm your grandson and I need money. And we're like, well, don't have grandkids.
Yeah. It's a tough one.
Yeah. And I view us in the same way when it comes to Blue Jays rumors as what we are with the phone scams. Like it's very unlikely that we will get scammed. But the thing is, the scammers exist because they're obviously scamming somebody.
Yeah, they would stop doing it if it was like a fruitless endeavor.
Somebody's getting scammed. Somebody, and it's no laughing matter, actually. It's a real problem. Stop it, scammers. Stop it. Whatever you do, don't stop doing it. I want to do that with the Blue Jays rumor mill right now.
Okay.
And sort of where you're at with the general discourse. And I have Morosi coming on later.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, maybe this isn't a scam. But the Kyle Tucker stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Multiple insiders
Yeah.
are linking him to the Blue Jays. And I will say that it feels to me like the more credible ones are saying they've got a shot. Like they're one of the teams that's going to be around it. And I'm like, all right, that kind of feels no different than what we've been used to the last couple of off seasons, and that people clearly have their guards up now because we did get, we did get scammed.
To what degree? Like you're talking about Soto and Shohei?
I don't think we got scammed on Soto. I don't think there's like what 10 people in all of Toronto that thought Shohei was going to come here, or sorry, Soto.
Yeah, I mean, on the heels of Shohei, people.
Yeah, because people had their guards up. And I'm saying,
really, Yankees, Mets, Blue Jays coming off 88.
But now
losses?
the Blue Jays made it to a World Series.
Yeah.
And they are a top 5 payroll team in all of baseball.
Yeah.
And so clearly they're going to be in the rumor mill for just about everybody. And so where you at in terms of, is Kyle Tucker to the Blue Jays to you a scam?
No, it's not a scam.
Wow.
I think the Blue Jays.
Not a scam.
I think he makes all the sense in the world for the Blue Jays. I don't think the idea of them outlaying that much money and outlaying the near and the near $200 million it would cost for Bo Bichette. I do think it's a Sophie's choice.
I agree with that. That it's one or the other maximum. There's no scenario in my mind where it's both.
I do think
unless Bo was to do something crazy where he's like, I'm taking a 1-year prove it deal, then I'm returning. And I just
No, Bo Bichette has earned the right to earn lots of money in free agency, but there's a reason why his projected value is less than Kyle Tucker, because Kyle Tucker's been the better baseball player. Like they've both been banged up the last couple of years, and Kyle Tucker doesn't have the high batting average, but he can hit a home run and he can take a walk and he can play average defense. He stole 25 bases last year too, despite the fact that he's not a burner. I don't think your microphone's on.
I was saying that the base running element for him and like the speed difference between him and Bo is actually, I think, one of his strongest cases for why he's a better fit.
Yep. Yeah. But yeah, unless the Blue Jays are gonna be not just top 5, like top 2 payroll in baseball, it's hard for me to imagine that they land both of them. But absolutely, I think, and what Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins would tell you, and by the way, it was so interesting to see them not seemingly change all that much in their first public comments since Game 7 of the
I thought
World Series.
Atkins went worse.
Yeah, you got less.
Yeah.
Until the last possible moment, he's like, Jeff Hoffman, maybe not the closer.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, a thing.
Yeah.
He's like, other than that, no.
And then he's
thanks.
like, I'm out of here. I
No
wore me
more
down. I'm
follow-ups.
done. Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah. But yeah, I think they like the player.
Yeah.
And they have a value that is associated with him. And if they can get him at their identified value, they'd absolutely come to ownership with that proposal. Because
That's
that
where
also,
I feel like it's a scam, though.
What do you mean?
Okay. So could the Blue Jays have...
Am I getting scammed?
Well, do the Blue Jays have a number for Kyle Tucker?
Yeah.
For sure. Like, is there a number where Kyle Tucker could be a Toronto Blue Jay? Of course. Do I think that their valuation is higher than the market? No.
No. And he is also not, so there's the two guys that you feel like you might have been scammed by, Shohei and Juan Soto. Those guys were so bankable for
Soto's
different...
more of the scam to me because it was like, in hindsight, the reporting was very much like, they really did stick to their valuation. They went in to have some meetings, but it was way closer to the Masai sleeping on LaMarcus Aldridge's floor, trying to convince him to take a meeting with the Raptors kind of deal.
Sure. But they, for different reasons, and Shohei was the performance, but is also like the off-field earnings thing that it was like, you go to crazy places that you never thought you'd get to because it's such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And Soto, for different reasons, but because of the age, because of the performance year over year over year, and just like never a drop-off for 1 second, that, yeah, you could go, all right, we have our set number, and I'm sure the Blue Jays did eventually get to a place that they didn't think they would have to go for Soto, but you went to that place because Juan freaking Soto, right? Even in this nightmare year for the Mets, he was unbelievable and will be unbelievable for the next, I don't know, close to 10 years.
Yeah, he's going to be one of the best hitters in baseball.
Kyle Tucker, I like him a lot. Not that, like, at all.
No, and we found that out this year, right? Like this was very much... Do you remember there was a point in time where when Vladdy signed his $500 million deal, and at the beginning of the year, Kyle Tucker was raking, and Vladdy was kind of scuffling?
Yeah.
People went, boy, what's Kyle Tucker going to get? He probably won't get the $500 million, but it's gonna be something that starts with a 4, pretty much guaranteed. And now it's like, no way. I can't see that.
But Kyle Tucker's a very good baseball player.
Yeah, no doubt.
Like, he's a lock to give you like mid 800s OPS and walk a bunch and not strike out and hit 30-ish home runs and play decent defense. And apparently, even though he's not a burner, steal 20-plus bases. But he's not Juan Soto, and he's not Shohei Ohtani. So, yeah, if the Dodgers are going to do their Dodger thing where it's like, this money means nothing to us. It just doesn't mean what you think it means because it doesn't exist to us. And we're going to...
We'll just print more.
Yeah, and we'll just defer it for 100 years. And then our scam that we're operating, our pyramid scheme where we sell the team right as we're about to pay out these players, like, that'll be somebody else's
Imagine
problem.
buying that team at that point.
You
can own the Dodgers, like, oh.
Yeah, it's like...
For real?
Yeah. You're paying Shohei Ohtani the $700 million. But, yeah, he's not worth going above and beyond for. Juan Soto, Shohei Ohtani were. But Kyle Tucker is going to be good and a lock to be a very, very good player, I think, for the next 5 years, at the very least, and beyond that. That's normal free agency stuff. There's the drop-off. But Kyle Tucker is probably not winning an MVP award in that span, right? Juan Soto very easily could win the MVP. Not very easily because he plays in the league with Shohei Ohtani, I guess, who's pitching against. He just wins it every year now, as long as he stays healthy. But you know what I mean? He's just not of that ilk.
So, first of all, I'm a Bo guy. Like, and I'm going to continue to reiterate this over the coming week when I do some shows and stretch it out a bit more.
Yeah.
But I just like the idea of someone who knows what it's like to play here, who has roots with the franchise, and feels like the more likely candidate to return. But if there's one guy in free agency that you feel like is worth targeting over Bo, I get the case for Kyle Tucker. I don't get the case. I don't get the case for being like Murakami could play third base for you and you slide Ernie over. Like, that stuff makes me sick to my stomach.
Oh my God, there is nobody
so
that
bad.
I'm
Lower.
more terrified of than
His batting average with like 92 plus is not even 100.
92, and guys that throw 93 they're lobbing it up there.
Yeah. No.
That's
no.
underhand stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. That's Jenny Finch. That's not happening here. There's a case for me in terms of like more certain you're going to get 5 years out of a guy, Bo or Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker, I think, is the better bet for 5 years than Bo Bichette. And there's a reason why like he'll get paid more than Bo Bichette for that reason.
Yeah.
But okay, that brings me to this, and like this is a good way for us to close out this segment, which is, so you mentioned the Atkins thing where he's at the podium and he went full. Did not acquit himself well. Like has the opportunity to kind of bask in it a little bit and be liked and get some. I think he had some cheap pops available to him, to use the wrestling term, to just be like, we're going to be aggressive in free agency. And like, we are, he said we're going to be in Bo's market. But even if he tweaks it to, we'll be at the forefront of Bo Bichette's market. Like, we will be aggressive in pursuing Bo. Like, I don't know why that puts you in a compromising position the way that some people seem to think it does, but whatever. He was himself. He was more himself. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of the case that I've gotten from some people when I've been canvassing whether or not this is going to impact free agency, right? Like the spending. Hey, are they going to go outside of those valuations, or are they going to feel more confident that their valuations is what's working because they made a World Series, even though everyone has to admit, including Shapiro at that media conference, you can't just try to get these same replicable results, and that there was clearly a measure of luck to the postseason run. Like things bounced
lightning in a bottle.
Completely correct. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's not to say like these guys aren't good. These guys were fraudulent to get there. No, they were the hottest team and they were the best team in baseball. And that's what baseball is about. Like, can you get hot at the right time?
And they did go out factually and see something in Ernie Clement.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right.
Same with Nathan Lucas.
But I'm in a position where I'm expecting them to go outside the valuations and to get super aggressive, because you do have this real moment, this real window where the fan base is rabid and there are people that are dying to watch a winner. And that if you regress next year, it's going to be unbelievably disappointing. Then all of a sudden, like, if you go out and are a wild card team who scuffles in the first round again and it looks like what you had prior, then people go, was that a fluke? Was that just the lightning in a bottle? Was one lucky run? How much credit are we giving these guys? I actually think, like, well, not just from the fan base's mental standpoint and like what's best for this baseball team, which I also believe is like more spending, but also for like the image of this front office as them being successful is like, hey, can you adapt and can you continue to evolve and change when there is potentially more money at your disposal? Like, where do you land when it comes to the level setting of expectations?
Yeah. So first things first, when you talked about how the success of this past season might impact their decision-making or their plan forward the offseason, I, like you, was like, if I was in the chair, right, you'd be like, oh, I can do whatever I want. And, like, the purse strings are open, and according to reports, they made somewhere in around $50 million extra dollars from the postseason revenue.
I think it's even more than that.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me. We were at those games. There was never a time where the lineup for the merch shop wasn't up the ramp. That is crazy, the type of money that they were making there. And, of course, yeah, you take your own sensibilities and you're like, you have all that equity, fan equity, but ownership equity too, where it's like, fine, this is what I told you would happen. Look at what happened. Now I can do whatever I want because you know that there's going to be a return, even though it's sports and there's no guarantees in any of this stuff. But let's do it. Kyle Tucker, Bo Bichette, Dylan Cease, all of it.
All of it. Whatever you want.
Except what's probably true is that these guys are more emboldened to be their true selves, right? It's like, you can't criticize us. And they're right until we see it, prolonged not work out. And now also, okay, so you talk about how this season might be impacted by future seasons. How are past seasons impacted by this season? Now it's like, oh, they did make the playoffs. They turned it around pretty quickly, right?
Yeah.
After the Alex Anthopoulos era, that's what it did to me. It's like, now you don't think about, oh, they didn't win a playoff game. It's like they made the playoffs and were able to turn one of the oldest teams in baseball in 16 into one of the most young and exciting, fun teams shortly thereafter and make the playoffs. And the early postseason forays didn't go so well, but the breakthrough was unbelievable. And now who questions Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? I think what it does is it just allows, and you saw it. He's like, Ross Atkins was like, you thought you saw the most Ross Atkins. Check this up. Knob to 11 on the Atkins meter. And I think these guys are, the Excel spreadsheet is only like it's double locked and cannot be changed.
Can I give you one sign that that's not the case?
I hope you can.
Yeah. You already said it.
What?
Ross's final answer at the podium. That he's a calculated guy.
Yeah.
Jeff Hoffman makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
And if you were doing and you defended Hoffman.
He was amazing in the postseason until.
What I would say is that throughout the course of the regular season, he was one of the biggest question marks the team had.
He's awful. He's one of the worst closers in baseball during the regular season.
And that caught up with them in the most important moment of the play. Well, I guess like they're all important because multiple times they could have been eliminated, but Game 7, whatever, you had a chance to lock it down. That's your number one job.
Yep.
When he said he's not married to that or whatever the quote was, it was essentially that. Like I'm paraphrasing.
He said the greatest thing about Jeff is that he's not married to that being a closer.
That to me was like an indicator. They thought maybe we're going to have a different closer next year.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you think you're going to have a different closer that next year, that would tell me we've already seen everybody internally. There's no closer in the building. Like,
you sure?
I would like to believe so. Who would be the closer?
I mean, he could have been talking about a myriad of different people. He could have been talking about Jimmy Garcia. He could have been talking about Louis Varland.
It ain't Jimmy Garcia, buddy. Jimmy Garcia has been hurt the last 2 years, and the idea that you'd be relying upon him to be healthy in October is nuts.
But that is the one area that I don't think that is going to be a true scam. If you start hearing their name, with like Edwin Diaz,
so this
like
is good.
That's a scam.
But this is good. Because this is where I'm sort of going with it. Is like there's a few guys on the market, right? There's Suarez, there's Diaz. There's lesser guys like
Devin Williams.
Yeah, well,
I like Devin Williams as like a reclamation project, and also
but
it would be so good to stick it to the Yankees. You get
I've
Luke
done
Weaver,
too many
Devin
negative
Williams.
Devin Williams things with you, where I was like, I said to you when he gave up the home run with Milwaukee that he's like a career loser, that like he doesn't have it.
Yeah.
And then he went to the Yankees and he did his like career loser thing, and I was like, I told you I'm right. I used a 1 game sample size and I'm correct. Blah 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 blah. I championed that for an entire year with you. If Devin Williams came to the Blue Jays. My pivot to being like, he was amazing. He's got great stuff. It would be really fraudulent. It would be really tough of me to like do that move and have to be that guy.
That would be the type of guy, though, someone where it's like, he actually can factually be one of the best relievers in baseball.
I do think he's the most likely of the guys to be here.
Edwin Diaz is awesome.
Didn't they really like Ryan Helsley at one point? Like,
they were big on Ryan Helsley, who was
and they
beyond a disaster.
Yeah, but I know, and they have a track record with that though, where it's like guys they're horned up for, they turn around and stay horned up for.
Yeah, and he has the thing that is a good place to start, and Louis Varland has too. But he has even more. So, like he throws hard, but he could not have been more of a disaster for a Mets team that lost on a playoff spot to the Reds. Yeah. Who remember them? They were in the playoffs.
Yeah,
that was exciting.
Yeah,
when they were
they're like, Hunter Green is from here and he's ready to bang, 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 bang. Oh God, stop bludgeoning them, Dodgers. Yeah, no, that was a fun moment in the postseason. Anyway, I'm probably being a little foolish with this, but my expectations are sky high. Like,
if it's a reliever they're outlaying an insane amount of money for, then they've truly changed. Because it's like the Jeff Hoffman deal is like, whoa.
But like that's where I'm at with free agency, where it's like they've always done the you don't want to build your team through free agency thing, and I don't think that's the case. But to me, the way that they can just augment this group and make it really feel like they could run it back and get there is if they added some impact to every area of the team.
Yep.
If they were like, hey, we're so thrilled Bieber's back. We don't care. We're in on Dylan Cease.
Oh, 100%.
We don't care that Bo Bichette is going to cost more than what we thought. We're bringing him back. And then a bench piece that is actually super useful to this team. Somebody that's like a swingman that can come in here, play some outfield. Like, hey, David Schneider, we love you. You had a good year. We're upgrading on you. Like Nathan
Well,
Lucas.
I mean, that's the dirty little secret about the Kyle Tucker thing. It's like, yeah, Nathan Lucas hit
Yeah.
second for this team against
Yeah.
righties in the World freaking Series, and you felt good about it.
You
It's
felt
like,
great about it. He was
he's
unreal.
fourth outfielder.
Yeah.
Because Kyle Tucker is
Yes.
playing
And
a
then-
corner outfield spot.
To me, the area where you can get the splashiest and have it feel materially different is if they were like, yeah, we signed Edwin Diaz. You'd be like, oh, what?
Mhm.
And I don't think that they're getting Edwin Diaz. All right. Like, I actually think Dodger, which is annoying.
Well, and look at all the closers that the Dodgers acquired.
But that's
this
it,
past
is
offseason.
for sure. And maybe
That-
he's
that
another
would-
Tanner Scott and
Yeah.
flames out. But I'm just saying, like,
Kirby Yates.
yeah, but Scott in particular, though, was when they got him, you felt
Yeah.
like, man, come on. And
Yeah.
that's how it would feel if they got Edwin Diaz. I just, that to me is going to be a huge area to circle is what do they do in the bullpen?
Yep.
Because that's been a problem every single year.
Yep.
And they've tried to address it at trade deadlines, and they've done okay, right? Like, they've brought in guys like Adam Simber was solid for them and helped them. Like, Trevor Richards was solid for them.
Yeah.
I think Santander, or I keep doing that, Sir Anthony Dominguez was good for them this season. Like, that was a good acquisition. Louis Varland pitched a lot for them. But those guys are getting more expensive at the trade deadline now than ever before because everyone recognizes the value of them.
Mhm.
And instead of just like nibbling around the fringes and hoping a guy can be a guy, I'd love for them to just say, okay, it's a huge risk and there's a lot of volatility with relief pitching, but let's get the guy that sets it all kind of in order. That would be pretty cool. Anyway, Ben Ennis, thanks for making time. Quick break. We'll come back and we'll talk to Jon Morosi about how the market's developing. So I said it with Ben. The hottest sports discussion in the city right now, in my opinion, is what are the Blue Jays going to do next? It's not the horrible Maple Leafs and the pain that is watching those games right now and the conversations around them. It's not the Raptors. It's not the Argos coaching change. It's not the Buffalo Bills. It's the Toronto Blue Jays. Jon Morosi is a insider for MLB Network. He joins me now. What's up, buddy? How we doing?
JD, good morning. I did try to at least gather some intel on another topic that you referenced, not directly the Maple Leafs, but I was at the Golden Knights Panthers game last night, as you would expect that I would be here, trying to combine my two favorite sports. So did have some observations there about number 93 for the home team, and it was interesting to see him play in his new environment.
Here's what I would like to discuss when it comes to that. Nothing. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear anything about it. I don't want to know that
All
guy.
right, we're here to talk ball.
I
It's
don't
all
know.
good,
I don't
JD.
want to
Thank
know
you.
that guy exists until I'm forced to when he's either wearing a Canada sweater or facing the Toronto Maple Leafs. Okay.
All right.
I want to.
Fair
I'm just
enough.
going to start with this, very broad, very open, which is the market starting to take shape to you? Like, because we're excited and there's a lot of anticipation, but it's so very early that I find it interesting that people are already starting to link some players to certain markets.
It is early.
Yeah.
And this is whether it's your opinion that it's a wonderful thing about the baseball offseason
I love it.
or the opposite is that it takes a while. This is not a frenzy. It is a slow march. And that's what we're talking about. We might see a Bo Bichette signing at the end of December for all possibilities. It is very difficult to tell. And when I look at the way a particular offseason begins to unfold, JD, it usually has some segments to it.
Yep.
And I think of the major free agent position players, the one who has the best chance to sign relatively quickly is Kyle Schwarber because he's basically at this point a DH only. His market is very clear. We know what he is doing. I think he's, to me, in terms of DHs and those that stay productive late on in their careers, it's a David Ortiz or Victor Martinez level of production. He's excellent.
Yeah, Hall of Fame.
And obviously, yes. So he's in a different category. For me, if I was a Blue Jays fan wanting to pay close attention to see, okay, when is Bo Bichette going to sign? The way I see this playing out, is that Bo's camp could wait until Alex Bregman signs, because Bregman is the other major infielder, you would say,
Yep.
who's out there and available in free agency. And there may be teams that want to get Alex to play third base, but aren't able to sign him. And then those runners up could then get involved in the Bichette market and say, okay, Bo, I realize that some teams want you at shortstop, but we like you at second, we like you at third. Just imagine a scenario in which the Red Sox fail to re-sign Bregman.
Yeah.
There's nothing stopping them from pivoting and then trying to get Bo. So I think for that reason, again, it can be very hard to make predictions on the market this early,
Sure.
and we are so early. But I believe there's a decent case to be made that Bo can and will wait until after Bregman signs to clarify the fullness of his market.
Yeah, it's always interesting because every offseason it's dominoes, right? Who goes first, who sets what market, who decides to wait it out because they don't like the market. You see that often with starting pitchers, right? Specifically now where guys don't feel like they need to have the same ramp up. We've had Blake Snell, for example, who just waited it out, signed when it was spring training when he made that decision.
Right.
So I'm not anticipating everything to get done quickly. I don't think many people are, but it's really what makes the Blue Jays especially fascinating to me is the scenario that you just outlined, right? Which, okay, they've been public saying Bo is he has earned the right to see what he is worth in free agency. For the last 2 years, John, we've had conversations like nobody knows what Bo Bichette's market is. It's all over the place. Some people go high, some people go low, whatever. I spoke to Jim Bowden 2 years ago about this, and he was like, I think it behooves the Blue Jays to do this now because they could probably get him for cheaper if they were trying to be aggressive. If you're the Jays, it kind of telegraphs to me just a touch, and I kind of want you to tell me if you think I'm wrong here, that Bo might not be their number one priority in free agency if they're not trying to jump the market. Because the scenario that you just outlined, which is hey, Alex Bregman maybe goes first, and then other teams get desperate for Bo, maybe that takes them out of the valuation. Maybe waiting actually increases Bo Bichette's market, which makes it less likely, you would think, just rationally, that a guy returns. So what is your early read in terms of the Bo priority level for the Blue Jays? Because normally guys like this that are homegrown stars, that's the player that you're most aggressive with, who has some inkling to return.
Yeah, JD, it's a really, I think, smart way that you laid that out, because I would describe Bo, from what I can gather here, as being a priority for the Jays, but not necessarily the priority for the Jays. And there's a big distinction there. And part of that, in my view, comes from the knowledge that the Jays obviously won 2 playoff series without him playing.
Yep.
They were certainly at their best ultimately when he was playing, but they played all their postseason games with Jimenez playing shortstop, and his defense there was, in my view, pretty strong. I think one of the better defensive players on the team, on what is already a very good defensive team, was Jimenez at a position that he didn't play all season long. And so for me, that, or at least didn't play for the entire season, I should say. So for me, that gives the Jays a really strong fallback plan to where they can, I think, be a little selective. And I believe that a big part of this, JD, is what position is Bo going to play?
Yeah.
I think that is the way the World Series played out, and obviously no one would have wanted to see the injuries happen in the way that it did, and for the Jays to have to get creative and obviously having to pitch run for him, et cetera, during the course of the World Series. None of that was ideal.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, his performance while playing second, and just the fact that he got out there as a teammate, was something that has certainly helped his value. And it seems to me, over time at least, that Bo's preference has been that he is viewed as a shortstop.
Yeah.
And I still believe that is true. But there's a sliding scale, especially in this world without a salary cap, where if a team really, really wants him to play third or second, and they're going to pay him, buy him out of his desire to play shortstop, let's say, there's no telling where the market can go. And I think the Jays know his defensive abilities better than anybody else does. And so they have their very firm concept of, here's what we think Jimenez can do for a full season at short, and here's what we think Bo can do, and then weigh that against the alternatives. I think especially potentially at second base, if you have Jimenez play short, who are the other second basemen out there, and how could you bring them in? How could they complement the rest of the group? I think that is a huge question, and I think that the final point that I'll make on this particular aspect of leverage, if you want to call it that, is by the Jays signing Vladdy and the success that Vladdy had, there's no external pressure on the Jays to sign Bo that would really move the needle, in my opinion. They don't have to prove, and I mean this in the best ways, the Jays front office has nothing to prove at this point in time in terms of, can you build a winning roster? Obviously. Will you spend big for superstars? Yes. So you're just making a baseball decision here. You're not making some sort of public relations decision. And that's where I do believe the Jays are taking their time to weigh out what the other alternatives could be about if you've got Jimenez at short and who could potentially play second.
So to me, there's a couple things here. So I'll break this kind of into two. One is you talking about Bo and the positional flexibility, right? And I know he wants to play shortstop, okay? Like he's made that very clear throughout the course of his career. And I think in his ideal world, that's where he's playing. But I'm curious as to how the market views him as a shortstop and how many teams would actually be willing to say, yeah, no, not only will we sign you, but we want to put you there, right? Like, and the Yankees have a track record of being like, yeah, we don't care if you're the best defender at short. If you're an amazing player, we'll put you there. So that one kind of scares me. There's obviously the Dodgers have Mookie Betts playing short. So the idea that they would move off of him for Bichette doesn't feel absurd to me. But overall, just whether the market views him as a second baseman. But secondarily, I do want to lead into that conversation of the PR and the optics of this, because I agree with you in part that they did sign Vladdy and that there is a lot of goodwill from the fan base and that they don't have to prove, quote unquote, that they can sign a superstar player anymore in Toronto to a massive contract. Like they doled out their biggest one. But it's pretty clear that when you're on the doorstep of a World Series and Bo Bichette hits the 3-run home run in that game and comes back to the let's go Bo chants, that the idea that they could get cute and replace their infielder with, like, I'm just using this as an example, like Murakami plays third and they bump Ernie Clement over to second base and don't add another superstar bat or a star bat, I don't think that's going to go over well with the fan base at all. And I think it will burn through a lot of the equity unless they are spectacular next season. Like, that's the only way to push that narrative away. And so, yes, the Bo part of it in terms of the way the market views him, but also what your initial read is on the way the Blue Jays front office is going to operate from the standpoint of, are they going to use that World Series money to go outside their valuations, or are they going to use the World Series appearance to justify sticking to their valuations and their core principles as a group that got this team here?
That is the defining question of the offseason,
Yeah.
JD, I think, as you lay it out. And really, ultimately, to be clear about it, that's a decision that will know or not know based on what is offered to players going forward. And that's really an ownership call, obviously, as was the case with Vladdy. I think that deal does not happen unless there's highly motivated ownership to get that deal done. That's clearly what the Vladdy story was. And I think, to your point with respect to Bo, we'll have to watch the marketplace in the coming days to see, to your point, how do they feel about Murakami, Okamoto, who can play first or third. Okamoto probably a little bit better defender at third base than Murakami is. So I think you would look at that potentially via trade as well. There's some different names out there that could be fits. But I think this is a free agent market, JD, that does not have a ton of other shortstops or other third basemen, with the exception of Bregman.
Yeah.
They could potentially go with Jorge Polanco, but again, he is not known as an excellent defender. And let's not forget what it was that put the Jays in position to win the World Series. They're a great defensive team. And I would be reluctant to take away that part of their identity to try to work out the best offensive club when I think we've seen this team can win really in its present form. They honestly, they won 2 playoff series without Bo. They're certainly a better team with them. I want to be clear about that. But the way that they navigated the playoffs, I thought was brilliant, actually. And so if I'll say this, shortstop is one of the hardest positions to fill with a true two-way player.
Yes.
And Jimenez, who you'd have to say right now is the incumbent of that position, is a good complementary bat and a well above average glove, in my view. Now, the other piece of the equation of all this, and this is, I think, speaks to the big picture of the Jays lineup, is a huge part of the lineup's success, in my view, was that they had a relatively healthy and productive George Springer for almost the entire season. And a big part of that was that he was the DH.
Yep.
And what I want to know is, how does their hopes for a healthy Anthony Santander, how does that balance with the belief that you've got to have George play a lot of DH to make sure that you get the best version out of him? That to me, aside from the Bo conversation, which is the most important thing right now with the Jays position player depiction, but the second part, very close second, is what are they going to get out of Santander? Where can he play? And what impact does that have on George Springer? Because if integrating Santander back into the lineup on a more consistent basis, if that diminishes the impact of Springer, that will have a tremendously negative impact on the whole of the offense, which actually makes Bo an all the more important player to retain and re-sign. So I think that, as much as Anthony Santander doesn't really seem like he's that related to Bo, in some ways he is, because it sort of speaks to the overall conception of what this offense is going to look like.
So where I actually see the more interesting Santander conversation is the Blue Jays being linked to Kyle Tucker. Because to me, George Springer's the DH, okay? But he's the DH for one more season. So there's like a succession plan essentially in place for me where you would go, you're hoping George gives you another productive year, and if he doesn't return or there's a decline, Santander is there for you as an insurance policy that ideally you'd like him as a DH. He's not a good outfielder, and if you're talking about the defensive identity of the team, that could not have been more obvious during the postseason than when they tried to force Santander into the lineup, and he was a butcher out there, like flat out.
Didn't work.
Correct. He feels like a deeply uncomfortable fit on this roster at this point, like especially if you're projecting out to be like, hey, where could you add? Maybe you're bringing in a Kyle Tucker. All of a sudden, your outfield is like unbelievably crowded. You had some breakout performers. I liked seeing Addison Barger get some outfield stuff. I thought he moved well, and his arm is an absolute cannon. I think Nathan Lucas acquitted himself well. Do you have to put these guys down in pen as franchise cornerstones if you can get like a Kyle Tucker? No. But Santander, you paid real money to. And I just don't know where you're supposed to put him in all of this if you are actually in on a guy like Tucker. And so, again, early, I get it, dominoes. But when we're saying Bo Bichette is a priority, not the priority necessarily, right? Like that they're not all in on Bo Bichette, we would agree that it still would feel like they would need to supplement his bat with somebody who can like really provide some kind of threat. And Kyle Tucker's one of the very few guys on the market that actually fits there, because you're not getting you're not in on Josh Naylor, right? You're not in on guys that play the same position as Vladdy or are purely DHs. Do you think the Jays are actually in on that guy? Like that they are going to be competitive in the market for Kyle Tucker?
Well, I think there's two different questions there. I think are they in? When you look at that group of free agents, I'm just going to glance at my notes from a standpoint of that company. Okay, so Excel Sports Management, they have Tucker, Schwarber. They also have Murakami. They also have Michael King on the pitching side. Not that I think that's necessarily going to happen, but that's a name worth noting. So you're going to talk to them, just like you're going to talk to Boris because of how many players he has. It doesn't mean that you're a finalist for Kyle Tucker. I think that's the next step. So will they talk with that group? Almost by definition, yes. They'll talk to Boris's people, I'm sure, this week here in Vegas too. But I do not perceive the Jays to be an inner ring finalist for Tucker. I just think or a likely finalist. There's too many other teams that have, frankly, a greater need for him. And I think that the Jays, I mean, this is, you kind of hinted perhaps at this a little bit earlier. I would be surprised if there was much of a trade market, let's say, for Santander, even though I'm sure the Jays would quite appreciate being able to move the entirety of that contract right now. I'm just not sure, unless you just pair up that contract with a similar large and not terribly efficient contract in its early stages. It's a hard contract to move. So I think that is in some ways a part of the Jays roster that I was honestly a bit surprised did not create more of an issue for them in 2025. Rare is the situation where you sign someone to the contract that you signed Santander to, and that he's hurt and unproductive almost the entire season, and it doesn't really hurt you. It's a really remarkable set of circumstances, and maybe the Jays try to explore trading him, but I think they're going to probably have to see, other teams are going to want to see him healthy and back to being a force before they probably make that decision.
So to me, it's like one of the most fascinating parts of the offseason and the roster. And like, I don't want to say that there isn't a scenario where Santander can't bounce back and look closer to the guy that they meant to sign. I don't think he's going to hit 44 home runs again. But just with the positional versatility and it's an uncomfortable fit, right? For quite a bit of money, and it sort of blocks them from being in on certain stuff, which stinks. Like it just doesn't feel great. So yeah, I'm with you that the likelihood is he returns, and hopefully he again provides a spectacular succession plan to George Springer as the team's future DH. That also feels the way it is for the pitching to me, which is Jose Barrios is there on a pretty big deal. That I saw a article the other day where it was like the 10 most unmovable contracts in all of baseball, and I think Barrios fell in at number 8. They've talked about him coming back for spring training. My guess is that he is back because, again, the contract. But if you just sort of look at what is best for the Blue Jays and what's the right fit, someone else who wasn't on the playoff roster, someone else who didn't impact the World Series for them outside of like wins in the standings, of course, which are valuable, is Barrios. They get Bieber that opts back in, and now they've still got Bassett and Scherzer who's saying that he still wants to play baseball and still wants to return, and a free agent market that has a couple of names out there that I think are pretty clear upgrades on Barrios at this point in his career and would really help this baseball team. What is your read of where the Blue Jays are at with their starting pitching, like holistically in terms of trying to return some of these guys that had an outsized impact on their team culture in Scherzer and Bassett, but also the potential to still be in on some of these other names like the Dylan Ceases of the world?
Right. So that you're asking what I think is one of the other most important questions, JD, of this particular offseason. And that is that if I were the Jays and looking at their needs, they need a legitimate starting pitcher in free agency.
Yeah.
Way more than they need Kyle Tucker. Way more.
Agree.
They have enough outfielder types and guys that could play the outfield. I'm not saying they're totally set there, but they can handle that, I believe, mostly with their internal group. The pitching side of things, it's important that the Jays, and they know this is not, I'm not breaking news to them. You can't just assume that your Savage is going to just keep being as great as he was for October over the next 7-month season. It's just
asking him to throw 180 innings. Like, it's totally different.
Not realistic.
Yeah.
Not realistic. So you have to basically acknowledge that you might have to back off him a little bit. He's basically a little more than like 1.5 years out of college. I mean, this is not, it's not fair. And the Jays are smart. They know that.
Yeah.
And so you can't assume that Berrios bounces back. You hope that he does, but you can't really assume it at this point in time. So if I'm the Jays, I realize I mentioned Michael King a moment ago. that type of arm, I think, is a really valuable one. And whether, again, you mentioned Dylan Cease, they need somebody. I think someone that's significant, because even some of the other arms that they had start games for them in 2025, Bowden Francis at all, I'm not sure how that top end depth of their system. And obviously they gave up Cal Steven to get Bieber. Yusavage sort of was, and he was a big one, but was their high end starting pitching option in the system as the season concluded. And obviously he rendered a return that was as great as anyone could have ever hoped for. But they need, I think they need a legitimate arm that they believe can start 25 or more games for them in 2026. That to me is like the 1B priority after Bo. And I'll point out that in general, the Bieber decision for him to opt in, I think did the Jays a lot of favors. That he probably could have gotten more in free agency, and maybe even certainly would have gotten more. But that I think was a huge win for the Jays at the outset of the offseason to have someone come back. And I want to make this point too. His decision to come back, yes, market driven for sure, and maybe some uncertainty about whatever his medicals look like and going back out in the marketplace, all those things. But in my opinion, that shows you the value of having a good culture.
Yep. A
maybe great culture in some ways. John Schneider, Pete Walker, the leadership of this team, the way that you're treated, and I think this was a big point that maybe some of my colleagues in the American media were just interested to hear that story as the postseason went along, how much the players love playing in Toronto, how well the organization takes care of them. All of those things matter. And so whenever you ask, not you specifically, but people in general about, okay, what is the value of the renovations that the Jays made at Rogers Center, in Dunedin, the way they treat their players, team services, all that stuff, that got you Shane Bieber. So remember that that's not just some subjective, esoteric concept that never makes an impact. That's the reason why you've got Shane Bieber, and that was a huge win for the Jays at the start of this offseason.
So there was one moment during the media availability, I think it was Atkins that answered it, where he was asked about, how the World Series run impacts them with free agents. And he gave an answer where he was like, some guys just want to play on the West Coast. Some guys want to be, closer to Arizona, whatever it is, right? Like we saw, and I think he was like basically referencing Corbin Burns and them striking out on him a season ago. And it was on his mind when he mentioned the Arizona thing. So I think that's real. Do I think there are some guys that just do not want to play in Toronto because they're California guys, for example, or, they're from Japan and they want the flight to be shorter? Like, of course. But to me, Toronto is not like with the Raptors where they don't have a track record of signing free agents and it is extremely difficult to get guys to come up there. It's materially different. I've heard Justin Turner talk. Every player that you've heard from over the last 5 years that have signed with the Blue Jays have talked about what a first-rate organization it is. Obviously, when the city's hot and you get to be there during the summertime when Toronto's incredible and has a real life and caters, frankly, to rich guys with disposable income in a way that a lot of cities don't. I don't have any thoughts like, oh, they're not going to be able to get free agents because you're going to have to go through customs, right? Or that it's this idea that Canada is the frigid north when you're playing there in the summertime. Like, all that is very, very real to me. The culture thing, though, I find most interesting from the standpoint of them trying to replicate it with those two pitchers that I mentioned with Scherzer and Bassett. Like, Shai was on with me last week, and he called Bassett the guts of the team. And that's the way that it has felt throughout this entire run, is that those guys had a cultural impact of intensity, but also with the right measure of human touch, not being unrelatable, not being jerks, fitting in seamlessly with the group, and having a measure of man, these guys have done it before. Like, there's accountability that's different with guys who have been around for as long as they have. There's an urgency with other players where they want to win because guys don't have X amount of years left in their careers. And that's why the Barrios of it all is still so sticky to me, because I think in an ideal world, you'd love to add another starting pitcher like you mentioned, like a Michael King, a Dylan Cease, someone is of impact who gives you the ability to back off of a Savage, somebody who gives you the ability to plan for potentially some Gossman regression, or Bieber needing an extra day because it's still close enough to his Tommy John. And yet these two guys, I don't know, it kind of feels like almost a package deal to me with Toronto, and they don't really have the space for them unless it's uber creative. And I have no read on how you get the two of them back without moving Barrios out.
Well, it's a great question. And what I would say is this, JD, that the Dodgers have shown that past a certain point, there's almost there's no limit on how many starters you should or could have on your 40-man roster. Obviously, it's not completely true, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, they kept signing pitchers, and then you'd look at their depth chart in February and say, well, how is this all going to work?
Yeah.
And the answer is that baseball and injuries help you make it work. It just and that's a funny word to use, help, but it's true. Unfortunately, injuries will happen, especially to pitchers. And you can look at the stats, and I think the last team that had only 5 starters make every start through a full 162 was the Mariners of 2003, I believe. And that's going back a ways.
That is.
So you're not going to have a fully healthy group. And by the way, Savage still has minor league options left, and you might need to send him down just to get him a break at some point in time, not for performance reasons, but just to make sure that you're titrating his innings, to use the expression. So, and I think too, the way that Bassett showed that he could pitch out of the bullpen was a game changer. So, if I'm the Jays, I do whatever I can to bring back Bassett and or Max, because I think they both made a huge impact on this team. And Max is a perfect example, by the way. There were times during the year where probably a lot of us that follow this team wondered if Max was going to pitch at all in the second half.
Oh, yeah, I was there the whole way. The first
so,
outing when he walked off with the thumb, I was like, well, that was it.
Right. And so Max did not crowd out anyone really from a standpoint of pushing someone off the roster that you really needed to get work for. So in general, I think that was a great signing. It didn't always feel that way. It's important for fans to remember that. It didn't feel that way in May and June, but it worked out in the end. And I think that's an important lesson to take away, that sometimes with the offseason, take your chance, bring in your talent, and then almost figure out the details a little bit later.
For sure. Last one. You've been generous with the time. This is not Blue Jays related. So the Dodgers are obviously linked to everybody. Like, you open up any free agency article and you look at the top names and it goes Dodgers. Dodgers will be
right.
The Dodgers will do this. I have no doubt in my mind that they will sign a player or two of significant impact this offseason. And I'm curious what your early feel is to the way that is going to be perceived around the sport as we are heading into labor negotiations about a salary cap. Because I am not a fan of the salary cap. I do not want a salary cap. But I have a hard time believing that when you have players like Kike Hernandez who are saying we didn't even play good and won a World Series, and coming off of repeat championships, the idea that the Dodgers signed, say, Kyle Tucker and Edwin Diaz and repeat as champions, that narrative of, well, the other teams just simply can't compete and we need to do something drastic is going to become more pervasive amongst fans and, more importantly, owners.
That's very possible. And I think that the way in which this season unfolded, there certainly were some teams that were competitive, that were of the smaller and mid-market clubs. But I think you also then saw, and this is where the Dodgers' success comes in, it's one thing to play well over 162 and play as well as the Dodgers do, or even win more games than the Dodgers did, which a number of teams did, including the Jays, of course. But then you get into a playoff series like Milwaukee versus the Dodgers, and you realize that is when the Dodgers' ability to sign Hiroki Sasaki, reboot him during the season, and then he comes out as this dynamo in the late innings, and you just start to ask yourself, they have advantages on top of advantages, right? And so we'll see. the whole notion of the bargaining is so complicated. There's so many different elements at stake. I think probably the biggest question is to what extent and what is of the 30 owners, how many of them are accepting of the current circumstances, and how many of them believe a drastic change is needed? And that obviously, that information is known only to the commissioner. But I think the situation becomes more complicated when it's not just owners on one side, agents and players on the other, and the union negotiating this, versus the biggest market owners are here, the slightly above average ones are here, the middle tier is here, the small is here, and they all have different ideas about how the overall outcome should be.
But you don't think the Dodgers have, like, their offseason materially impacts this, basically, is where you're going?
I think we're already there.
Okay.
We're already, however you feel about it.
Yeah.
However you feel about the Dodgers.
Yeah, it's done.
You feel about them now,
Yeah, okay.
and I don't think it's going to change in a month. And again, it's, if they sign Kyle Tucker, people would say, well, that's a very predictable outcome based on the way things have gone for the last half a dozen years, if not longer. So I think that however you feel about the economics of baseball on November the 11th, I think you'll probably feel the same way about them on March the 11th.
I don't know if I will. I think I might be the swing vote. Like,
you are the swing voter, JD. We have to have a focus group and get a whole lot of polling, and you're going to be, I'm sure, contacted by all the powers that be to make sure that your voice, JD, and your insights, which are many and legion, are part of the conversation.
That's the number one prediction you made today that has 0% shot. Jon Morosi of MLB Network. Thanks as always for making time, my friend. Be well.
JD, always love catching up. Thanks so much.
See you, buddy. When I say I'm the swing vote, I mean, like, I'm not going to change my mind on salary cap versus no salary cap. Again, I have too much of a data set with the other leagues that I do not like. I hate that the NBA is so much harder to make trades. I hate seeing teams like the Denver Nuggets, the window around one of the greatest players in the game just closes immediately because they signed one guy to a bad contract in Michael Porter Jr. They lose, like, real important pieces. I hate seeing the Boston Celtics go into a fire sale mode because they want to get under the luxury tax threshold the second one of their stars gets hurt. I don't like it. I don't like the NHL that you feel. I don't like seeing, the Anaheim Ducks be the number one team in hockey and that they're on the same level footing even though nobody goes to those games as the Toronto Maple Leafs. Sorry. The Leafs pay for those teams. The Montreal Canadiens pay for those teams. I think that they should have an advantage. Just like they have an advantage with tax-free states in Florida and whatever. I don't like them, period. And I think that we can point to the different amount of champions that have happened since the year 2000 in all of these leagues, with baseball having the widest variance, and say, hey, it hasn't even impacted the winning stuff to the degree that the other sports has. But with negotiations so close to this Dodgers run, it saps some of the joy if they're finding ways to get players there and not even looking at it from the standpoint of they're bearing this massive financial burden. So to me, it hopefully, I think, becomes more of a conversation about deferred money. And yeah, the Jays did it with Santander, and that was a nice win for them. But if the Dodgers go get Kyle Tucker and they go get this Ime guy, what's his name? Yeah, Tatsuya Ime, who apparently everybody loves. I don't know a thing about him. I've seen some players that face him go like, oh, he's as good as anybody. He's as good as Yamamoto. I'm guessing not. But you get my point here. If they get another Japanese superstar who hits with them, they get the best free agent on the market, and they add the best closer on the market. It's hard for me to envision a scenario where people like me, who are adamantly against the cap, fans, don't go, well, maybe. It's like Kevin Durant to Golden State, where that tilted the scales for the NBA salary cap. And it feels, to me anyway, like, how could owners not look at that and say, man, we're taking it on the chin from our fan base for not spending this amount of money? And we want to feel like we're in on some of these guys too. We still want to win. There's a few franchises like the Pirates who obviously don't care. The Rays who are like, we just want to make money. Like, yeah, the Marlins. But there's a lot of those other teams that are going, God, man, even though we're rich, what are we doing? Let's get in our rich guy club and find a way to save some money here. Just because the Dodgers are basically ruining the plan. So we'll see, but I don't think it's going to be it's I can tell you, it will be a bad look for baseball if the Dodgers crush it in free agency after winning back-to-back World Series. Period. Subscribe to this podcast, leave 5 stars. Reach out anytime at JD Bunkis. Quick break, hit what we missed. Okay, Brandon Brown is here to do what we missed with me, but before we do that, tickets to give away. Last chance. Last chance. Otherwise, you're paying. AC/DC is bringing their Power Up Tour to Rogers Stadium on September 16th, 2026, and we've got your chance to be there. We're giving away 3 pairs of tickets to the show, this legendary night of rock and roll. Just text the code word ROCK to $595.90 for your chance to win. If you don't win with us, tickets are now on sale on Ticketmaster. This contest is in Ontario only. Standard message and data rates may apply. All right, Brandon, what did we miss?
Well, we've got some breaking news, so we didn't really miss
Love
it.
breaking
But Shams is reporting that the Dallas Mavericks, and specifically the owner, Patrick Dumont, are expected to fire general manager
Patrick Dumont.
Nico Harrison at 10 a.m. this morning. So we're only, or 10 a.m. Central. So we're only about 13 minutes away from that supposedly happening. So any quick thoughts on that happening?
Monsieur Dumont is a little late on this move. It's still so weird because they end up getting Cooper Flag because of random luck, but in part due to losing Luka Doncic. But yeah, I don't think I'll see a worse trade in my lifetime. I would be surprised. It's the worst one. And anybody who tries to even bring up the Cooper Flag of it all is just ignoring that they could have gotten more. They did not canvas the league on one of the most impactful players in all of basketball. And even, like, Armin knows this, Lakers are winning games because that dude is pouring in buckets as a Luka Doncic is known to do. Armin's life is amazing because he gets to stay up late, eat food, and watch Luka. What a win for this guy. Handed him on a silver platter to the Los Angeles Lakers. Nico being empowered to make that move and then being fired a few weeks, a month into the NBA season is why ownership matters. Monsieur Dumont, this is on you, my friend. You can't have somebody get that level of power to trade a Luka Doncic type player and then 6 months later go, you're not the guy for the job. That's crazy. And what, you think that the goodwill changes? No. All you've done now is put a target on yourself, Monsieur Dumont. Like, so yeah, Nico will be hated in Dallas forever. Appropriately so. Appropriately so. There is no defending it. There's none. None whatsoever. But now I think Mavs ownership group takes the heat, the beating every night that people will go, hey, thanks, Nico. But a year from now, it'll be, merci, Monsieur Dumont, for doing this to us, giving us this fan trauma that is losing Luka Doncic, which I said at the time, the only thing I can relate it to is me losing the Sonics. That's how painful it is. I remember as a Seahawks fan losing Russell Wilson when I thought he was still in his prime and I was wrong. It turned out to be a great trade. But when you lose a stud quarterback, like in his prime, like, man, if you lost Josh Allen early, like if Josh Allen left, you would never, it would hurt you till your dying days. And unless he pulled a Russell Wilson, which Russell Wilson did for me, I thought it was going to be the same. It felt like I was mourning a loss. It was a true blue sports loss. So, yeah, good riddance, Nico. I guess go back to work for Nike. Maybe Nico's pivot is to be a dietitian. He'll start like a workout program because he cannot stand anybody who's a pound overweight despite the actual production. Fat sickens Nico Collins. Anyway, what's next?
Yeah, I want to jump back into Monday Night Football last night. We saw a
horrible game.
Bit of a slow game, especially in the first half there. But Eagles come out 10-7 after some questionable decisions, I'd say, at the end of the fourth quarter there by Nick Sirianni. So that was where I wanted to start is what did you think about his decision to kind of go for it in that fourth down?
Well, I had a big fat bet on the Eagles. And again, I went to a bar to watch the game, and these people were being like, it's time to go. It's time to go. I'm like, can you just see what the screen is doing for 1 second? I get it. You're trying to close. Can I get one sports fan who works in the sports bar who understands that you're interrupting me as like the Packers are driving down the field to potentially tie the game and have it? I knew I was going to have to get out of there for overtime, by the way. It was like, ugh.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to name this place so badly, but I will not because it's a good place and they serve good beer. But my God, get it together with your sports act. I had a huge bet on the Eagles. I thought the game was essentially over because I figured they would punt.
Yeah.
Hey, kick it out of bounds inside the 20 and force the Packers to have to go, 60 yards in order to kick a credible field goal with less than 30 seconds left. I didn't have sound on because God forbid a sports bar put sound on over Dua Lipa. God forbid. God forbid it. I don't know what the commentators were saying, but I was losing my mind. I was apoplectic. I can't remember the last time I saw something like that. It was outrageous. It was so unbelievably stupid that I even almost started rooting against my bet, saying this guy should be punished for this decision. Nick Sirianni should have to eat it at a podium for what was completely nonsensical. And I know they do the math probability, like go, stay thing, and I don't always agree with it because I feel like it's always go. It's like probability says go. It's the first quarter and you're on your own 35 with a yard and they go, you got to go. I'm getting used to that version of football. And by the way, too, field goal kickers have insane range. And I know it's freezing cold Lambeau, but we've heard this now. I think Pat McAfee talked about it, that home stadium teams are able to kind of have their kickers basically design the football Tom Brady-esque in order to kick it farther.
Yeah.
So you got to be accounting for, even if you're scared of this guy's leg from 55, that it's all of a sudden 60 when they're in their home field. I just thought it was disastrous. Anyway, my main takeaway from the game is pretty plain and simple, which is both those teams are just flawed. And it's why, to me, they're still in the contender category. Clearly, they're there. It's 4 teams in the NFC that I really trust. The Bucs are on the outside looking in, especially after this last week. And, okay, you can make the case that they'll get healthier, whatever. I still think that they're not with the top 4. I see them closer to the Packers, but not in there with the other 3. Jordan Love just doesn't inspire me. And I know he doesn't have a lot of receivers still, but it's not like I watch him and go, I'm terrified of you when I'm betting against you the way that I do with other quarterbacks. I didn't feel like, oh man, 27 seconds to go, he's for sure going to make a big completion down the field. But the Eagles, like, Saquon was running the ball yesterday and still hurts. He came up with a couple big throws to Devontae Smith. But overall, he leaves me wanting. Like, he makes a lot of throws where it's like uncatchable balls. It feels like he gets rushed. He has the bad fumble, which completely changed the course of the game. Oh, yeah. They just feel off, man. They just feel off. And very likely that they're there for the Super Bowl. They're absolutely in the mix. To me, it's just like it goes Rams at the very top, Seahawks and Eagles tier below. Eagles get more of a bump up because the pedigree, and then Packers, Bucks into like what I think is their own category.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at with that game. Anyway, it is Remembrance Day. All I'm going to say is there has been like this politicization of the poppy that's been happening in Canada over the last couple of years, and it drives me nuts. It's just remembering our fallen and those who served, those who made the ultimate sacrifice. And it's important. It's important to remember those people. It's important to acknowledge those people. And so you should be doing that today. And I know that everybody carries around cash, so maybe that's part of the reason why you see less poppies in the streets here than I think you should. But if you want, and maybe if you want to just try to help pick up the slack for a lot of the people that aren't wearing these things, you can go to legion.ca and you can make a donation there. It's very plain and simple, goes to the Poppy Fund, and it supports veteran initiatives. And it's a very easy thing to do. It's a very small acknowledgement. Stop politicizing this. It is what it is. Acknowledge those who gave everything.